Hello everybody! I hope you are enjoying the story so far. Today we're going to be moving on to chapter 13 of The Billionaire Boy. And in the last chapter, Joe got quite upset with Dad because Dad had this new girlfriend who's a hand model, and she was very demanding, and Joe thinks she's only there for his money. And to be honest, I think Joe is correct. And he had last fallen out with his friend Bob. So now we're going to move on to chapter 13, and it's called New Girl. Are we ready? The half-term holidays came and went, and when Joe returned to school on the Monday morning, he found he wasn't the centre of attention anymore. There was a new girl at school, and because she was so pretty, everyone was talking about her. When Joe walked into his classroom, there she was, like a giant, unexpected present. Sorry. So what's the first lesson today, she asked as they walked across the playground. Sorry, sputtered Joe. I said, what's the first lesson today? The new girl repeated. I know, it's just, you're really talking to me. Joe couldn't believe it. Yes, I'm talking to you, she laughed. I'm Lauren. I know, Joe wasn't sure of the fact that he remembered her name made him sound suave or like a stalker. What's your name? She asked. Joe smiled. At last, there was someone at the school who knew nothing about him. My name is Joe, he said to Lauren. Joe what? Asked Lauren. Joe didn't want her to know that he was the bum-fresh billionaire. Joe Potato. Instead of Spud, so Potato Spud. Joe Potato, she asked, more than a little surprised. Yes, stammered Joe. In the moment, he'd been too overwhelmed by her beauty to be able to come up with a better alternative to Spud. Unusual name, Potato, said Lauren. Yes, I suppose it is. It is actually spelt with an E at the end, just Joe Potato. So it's not quite the vegetable potato. That would be ridiculous. Lauren tried to laugh too, but she was looking at Joe a little oddly. Oh no, thought Joe. I only met this girl 1 minute ago and she already thinks I'm nuts. He quickly tried to change the subject. We've got maths next with Mr. Crunch, he said. Okay, and then we've got history with Miss Spite. I hate history. So boring. You'll hate it even more with Miss Spite. She's a good teacher, I suppose, but all us kids hate her. We call her the witch. That's so funny, said Lauren, giggling. Joe felt 10 feet tall. Bob bobbed into view. Hi, Joe. Oh, hi, Bob, Joe replied. The two former friends hadn't seen each other over the half-term. Joe had spent his days alone, racing around and around his racetrack in a new Formula One car his dad had bought him. And Bob had spent most of the week in a bin. Wherever Bob was, the grubs seemed to find him, lift him up by his ankles and deposit him in the nearest skip. Well, that was what Bob had said he wanted. Joe had missed Bob, but this wasn't good timing. Right now, he was talking to the prettiest girl in the school, maybe even the prettiest girl in the whole of the local area. I know we haven't seen each other in a while, but, well, I've been thinking about what we said when you were doing litter duty, stammered Bob. Yeah. Bob seemed a little taken aback by Joe's impatient tone, but pressed on. Well, I am sorry we fell out, and I'd like us to be friends again. You could move your desk back so that... Do you mind if I talk to you later, Bob? Said Joe. I'm quite busy right now. But, began Bob, a wounded expression on his face. Joe ignored it. I'll see you around, he said. Bob marched off ahead. Who was that? A friend of yours? Inquired Lauren. No. He's not my friend, replied Joe. Bob's his name, but he's so fat, everyone calls him Blob. Lauren laughed again. Joe felt a tiny bit sick. But he was so pleased to be making the pretty new girl laugh that he pushed the feeling all the way down inside him. For the duration of the maths lesson, Lauren kept on looking over at Joe. It put him right off his algebra. In history, she was definitely gazing in his direction too. As Miss Spike droned on and on about the French Revolution, Joe started to daydream about kissing Lauren. She was so very pretty that Joe wanted to kiss her more than anything. However, being only 12, Joe had never kissed a girl before and had no idea how to make it happen. And the name of the King of France in 1789 was... Spud. Yes, miss. Joe stared at Miss Spite, horrified. He hadn't been listening at all. I asked you a question, boy. You haven't been paying attention, have you? Do you want to pass your exam? Yes, miss, I was listening, stammered Joe. What is the answer then, boy? Demanded Miss Spike. Who was the king of France in 1789? Joe had no idea. He was pretty sure it wasn't King Kevin II or King Craig IV or King Trevor the Great, but because kings didn't tend to have names like that. I am waiting, pronounced Miss Spike. The bell rang. I'm saved, thought Joe. The bell is a signal for me, not you, pronounced Miss Spike. Of course she was going to say that. She lived to say that. It would probably be written on her tombstone. Lauren was sitting behind where Miss Spike was standing, and she suddenly waved at Joe to get his attention. He was confused for a moment, then realised she was trying to help him by miming the answer. First, she acted out someone going to the bathroom. King Toilet offered Joe. The class all burst out laughing. Joe shook her head. Joe had another try. King Lavatory. They laughed again. King Bog. They laughed even harder this time. King Louis the... Yes, boy. Miss Spike continued her interrogation. Behind her, Lauren mimed numbers with her fingers. King Louis V, the 10th, the 15th, the 16th, Louis the 16th, declared Joe. Lauren mimed a clap. That's right, Spud, said a suspicious Miss Spike before turning to the board and writing it, King Louis the 16th. Stepping out into the spring sunshine, Joe turned to Lauren. You totally saved my butt in there. That's okay. I like you, she smiled. Really? Asked Joe. Yes. Well, then I wonder if... Joe stumbled over his words. What? Well, if you know, well, I mean, you probably wouldn't. In fact, you definitely wouldn't. I mean, why would you? You're so pretty and I'm just a big lump, but... The words were spiralling out of his mouth in all directions now, and Joe was beginning to blush fiercely with embarrassment. Well, if you wanted to... Lauren took over the speaking for a bit. If I wanted to go for a walk in the park after school and maybe grab a nice lolly? Yes, I would love to. Really? Joe was incredulous. Yes, really. With me? Yes, with you, Joe Potato. Joe was 100 times happier than he could ever remember. It didn't even matter that Lauren thought his last name was Potato. And that is the end of chapter 13. I hope you're enjoying this story. I wonder what's going to happen with Joe, Spud and Lauren. Are they going to become friends? Is he going to make up with Bob? I wonder. Bye.